started looking for a place to live in Japan, you've probably already realized that the Japanese real estate market is like a whole different world. After clearing those high hurdles and finally finding a place that makes you think, hey, this looks perfect, you might notice a mysterious phrase tucked away in the details. Fixed-term tenancy. Most people skip over it because it sounds like boring contract. But wait! Signing a contract without understanding fixed-term lease is one of the biggest risks you can take. You might find yourself 2 years down the line, totally in love with your neighborhood, only to be shocked by a notice saying, time's up, you have to move out. No extensions, no arguments. Today, I'm going to explain in a clear and practical way what a fixed-term lease is in Japan, how it's different from a regular lease, and the real advantages and things you should watch out for, especially for foreigners living in Japan. To understand the fixed-term lease, you first need to understand the Japanese standard. About 90% of apartments in Japan use what we call an ordinary tenancy. Usually, these contracts are set for a term of 2 years. The most important thing to know is that Japanese law is incredibly, almost aggressively, protective of the tenant. The biggest features of this contract can be summed up in 3 key points. 1. The 2-year term is just a baseline. 2. Renewal is your legal right. If the term ends and you want to keep living there, the landlord basically cannot say no. For the landlord to say, I want to end the contract, they need a very strong and legally valid reason. 3. You are safe from eviction. Unless there are extremely serious circumstances, like the owner losing their own home, or the building being in danger of collapsing, the landlord cannot force the tenant to move out. In Japan, it's not unusual to see people living in the same apartment for 20 or 30 years. This tenant-first culture is quite rare globally. In many other countries like USA or parts of Europe, landlords can simply choose not to renew. But in Japan, the idea of once a tenant, always a tenant is very strong, because this makes it so hard for owners to get their property back. The fixed-term lease was created, though it still only makes up about 2% of the market. So why does fixed-term tenancy even exist? That's because the owner has a very real and unavoidable reason for needing the property back at specific time. A fixed-term lease follows different rules. It means the contract ends exactly when the term is up. There is no right to renew and no automatic extension. So what kinds of properties are offered as fixed-term leases? Here are 4 common examples. First, relocation. For example, when an owner is transferred to another city or sent overseas for work and plans to be away for only a few years, they want to live there again when they return to Japan. If they rent it out under a regular lease, they might not be able to get it back. So instead, they rent it out with a fixed term, clearly setting a limit like 3 years only. 2. Redevelopment. When there's a plan, like we'll demolish this building in 5 years and build a new apartment, or we want to clear the land and sell it in the future. 3. Family use. A landlord might be holding the apartment for their child, who is currently in high school but plans to move to the city for university in a few years. 4. Risk management. This part is a bit tough to hear, but with a regular lease, even if a tenant has really bad manners, it's very hard for the landlord to make them leave. So some owners start with a 1 or 2 year fixed-term lease as a kind of trial period. If the tenant is respectful and easy to deal with, they renew. If not, they simply let the contract end. If you're someone who wants to live in one place for a long time, you can see why signing a contract like this without knowing the owner's intentions can be very risky. Next, let's take a deeper look at the 4 decisive differences between a regular lease and a fixed-term lease. 1. Whether the contract can be renewed or not. To repeat the key point, with a regular lease, as long as you pay the renewal fee, you can keep living there indefinitely. With a fixed-term lease, the contract ends when the period is over. Of course, if both the landlord and the tenant agree, you can continue living there through a recontract, but that is not a right. It simply means signing a brand new contract again. If the landlord says no, you must move out when the term ends. 2. Whether you can cancel the contract early. This is a surprisingly common trap that many people don't know about. With a regular lease, you can usually cancel anytime, as long as you give notice 1 or 2 months in advance. But with a fixed-term lease, in principle, you cannot cancel during the contract period. There are some exceptions, but as a basic rule, if it's a 2-year contract, you're responsible for 2 years of rent. If it's a 5-year contract, you're responsible for 5 years. That's why landlords are legally required to explain this clearly in writing. So make sure you always check this point carefully before signing. 3. Recontracting and changes to the terms. With a regular lease, even at renewal, the rent usually doesn't jump suddenly. That's because, under Japanese law, a rent increase requires the tenant's agreement. With a fixed-term lease, however, a recontract is treated the same as a brand new contract. So the landlord can say, if you want to stay, the rent will go up by 20,000 yen. If you can't agree to that, the contract simply ends. 4. Differences in the contract procedure. For fixed-term leases, the law requires a written explanation in advance. The real estate agent must give you a separate document different from the contract itself, clearly stating this contract cannot be renewed and must also explain it verbally. If this explanation is missing or the document is inadequate, the contract may legally be treated as a regular lease instead. That's how strictly this rule is enforced in Japan. Now, let me explain 3 big benefits of fixed-term lease. At this point, you might be thinking, isn't a fixed-term lease all downsides? But actually, there are many advantages that can be especially attractive for foreigners. 1. Significantly cheaper rent. This is the biggest attraction, because fixed-term leases come with the disadvantage of a limited contract period. The rent is often set about 10 to 20% lower than regular leases for the same area and size. For example, a place that would normally cost 100,000 yen per month might be only 85,000 yen, just because it's a fixed-term lease. Saving 15,000 yen a month means 180,000 yen saved in a year. 2. The quality of the property is often higher. Many fixed-term lease homes are places the owner plans to live in themselves in the future, or units in condominium buildings originally meant for purchase. They're also often rented out fully furnished with appliances. 3. It's a smart choice if your stay period is already decided. If you're in Japan for a 1-year exchange program, a 2-year work project, or a working holiday, you don't really need the right to renew that comes with a regular lease. When you already know your return date, choosing a fixed-term lease, which is cheaper and higher quality in exchange for a set end date, is often the smarter and more rational option. Finally, let's wrap up with some practical checkpoints and actions you can take to avoid trouble when considering a fixed-term lease. By knowing the reason, you can roughly guess how likely a recontract will be. Before signing anything, make sure you clearly check these 5 points. 1. The contract period. Exactly when does it start and when does it end? 2. The possibility of recontracting. Does the document say something like recontract, negotiable? 3. The early cancellation clause. If you have to leave suddenly, such as returning to your home country, how much is the penalty? 4. The notice timing for contract expiration. Normally, the owner must notify you between 1 year and 6 months before the end date. Is this rule properly stated? 5. Restoration and cleaning fees. What costs will you have to pay when you move out? Also, for foreigners, there are rare cases where only fixed-term leases are introduced because of limited rental history in Japan. If you want to live long-term, don't hesitate to say, I'd also like to look at regular lease properties. You have every right to ask. A fixed-term lease is not a bad or losing contract. What really matters is whether it fits your life plan in Japan. If you're staying short-term and want a good, affordable place, a fixed-term lease can be your best ally. If you want to stay long-term and your future is still uncertain, choosing a regular lease is the safer option. The biggest risk in renting is signing a contract without understanding it. So take the time to learn and choose your home wisely. On Movin, you can search for apartments in Japan from anywhere in the world. We offer support in Japanese, English, Chinese, and Vietnamese. So be sure to check out our official website from the link in the description. If you thought this video was helpful or interesting, please subscribe and hit the like button. Well then, see you in the next video. I'm cheering with all my heart for your happy life in Japan. Bye bye.